Have you ever heard the saying that a flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long? While this quote is usually used to describe an ill-fated romance, it also perfectly describes the quick rise and fall of Sam Bankman-Fried. He was once one of the youngest billionaires the world has ever seen, as the founder of not just one, but two highly valuable cryptocurrency companies, FTX and Alameda Research. He had achieved shocking success and wealth by the age of 30, only to have it all come crashing down in the span of just a few years. How can you go from being one of the youngest billionaires to being investigated by Congress due to fraud allegations? One of the biggest problems with FTX was that Sam Bankman-Fried used the money invested into the crypto exchange for his own purposes, which violated the terms of services laid out by his own website. He ended up spending over $5 billion of FTX assets in a reckless spending spree that sent the company into a downward spiral. But what did he spend all of his, or more accurately, all of his customers' money on? Before we get to that, let's take a look at what exactly happened during the downfall of FTX and its CEO. Sam Bankman-Fried, the former CEO of FTX, rose to fame quickly in the crypto world. At one point, his net worth was estimated to be $16 billion, but that quickly fell when FTX collapsed and filed for bankruptcy in November of 2022. Not only did FTX's value plummet, but SBF was also arrested and became the focus of a fraud investigation by the US Congress. So, how did this all happen? One thing that's important to understand is that cryptocurrency works like a bit of a hybrid between stocks and banks. You trade your money for cryptocurrency, and the value of that currency can rise and fall over time. So it's always a bit of a gamble. SBF assured potential customers that FTX was safe and reliable, and said you'd make more money with FTX than you ever would with a traditional bank. With these statements, he was essentially encouraging people to store their wealth by investing in cryptocurrency. The FTX terms also promised customers that the money they put into FTX would never be traded outside of the exchange by the company. Due to these promises and a hefty advertisement campaign, FTX was actually the third largest crypto exchange in the world during its prime. FTX was so popular that they were able to get sponsorship from celebrities, with ads all over YouTube and other social media sites. The company reached its highest point in 2021, being estimated at a value of $32 million, only to file for bankruptcy later that same year. An important part of the story is a crypto token called FTT, which is the native token of FTX. Native tokens like FTT are used as an added perk for customers using the site and can be used to give customer discounts or help them make some extra money. But for FTX, FTT would soon become the center of a massive controversy. The first sign of trouble was when a crypto news site called CoinDesk published an article saying that FTT was the main asset behind the wealth of FTX's sister company, Alameda Research. This exposed the fact that FTX was sending FTT tokens to Alameda, which Alameda would then use to bolster its own profit reports before sending it back to FTX to create a false sense of financial success. The fact that FTT was the main foundation of assets for Alameda was also a problem because FTT was not as stable or valuable as other forms of cryptocurrency. If you remember, FTX had also said that they would not trade money invested into FTX outside of the exchange, which was exposed as a lie once it was revealed that FTX was sending so much FTT to Alameda. But things just kept getting worse from here. After the CoinDesk article was published, a rival crypto exchange site called Binance announced that they were going to sell all of the FTT they had in their possession, which amounted to about $529 million in FTT. This liquidation crashed the value of FTT, and people who had put their money into FTX began to panic. Customers scrambled to withdraw their money from the site, but due to the suddenness of the large volume of withdrawal requests, and the fact that the value of FTT, the main asset backing the wealth of the company, was falling so fast, FTX simply couldn't pay their customers back. This is what led to FTX filing for bankruptcy on November 11, 2022. After the shocking collapse of FTX, SBF resigned as CEO and was arrested, with the fraud investigation being launched by Congress. Amidst all this chaos, FTX installed a new CEO, John J. Ray, who then exposed some of the poor business practices that were conducted under SBF's leadership. For one thing, FTX had not been making proper reports of their finances. Part of this was because of the loop they had created by constantly shuffling FTT back and forth between FTX and Alameda. Overall, John J. Ray said that he had never seen such poor management, and also revealed that SBF had gone on an insane spending spree that spent over $5 billion in customer assets, leaving many to wonder what he had spent so much money on. Some of the money was spent on actual investments, though many of them did not pan out well. John J. Ray said that SBF bought out a lot of businesses in hopes of making money off of them. He also made some investments in other businesses. He would sometimes take the money of FTX users and invest it in other, less safe exchanges to get a better idea of the cryptocurrency market. It is reasonable to assume that SBF knowingly risked the integrity of his clients' investments, which is where some of the fraud allegations come into play. FTX promised to be safe, reliable, and profitable. SBF violated this promise by putting the money of FTX users into investments that he likely knew were unreliable and would have very poor returns. And this is how low quality his investments were, but he also spent his customers' money for his own personal gains. SBF spent millions of dollars on luxury hotels, food, and transportation in the Bahamas. He also bought expensive properties in the Bahamas. These lush expenditures were made by SBF as well as Caroline Ellison, the CEO of Alameda Research, who had an on-again, off-again relationship with SBF. He also bought some of these getaway properties for other FTX executives. Not only did SBF use FTX's money to have expensive vacations, he also wrote huge checks to his favorite sports teams and political campaigns. Unlike his poor investments, there's no way that he could possibly spin these expenditures as being a way to bring returns to his customers. Does anyone remember seeing ads where Shaquille O'Neal promoted FTX? SBF spent hundreds of millions of dollars on celebrity ad campaigns, including a $30 million ad in the Super Bowl in 2022. FTX also bought the Miami Heat arena and renamed it the FTX Arena, a stunt that cost him over $135 million. SBF definitely seems to enjoy using his customers' money to show a little team spirit whenever he can. All of this frivolous spending meant that his customers' investments didn't grow, which led to an overall loss of assets, despite the company's promises that FTX investors would experience excellent returns. With this in mind, it's no wonder that the truth eventually came out, and people scrambled to get their money out of the hands of this company. From being hailed as a brilliant entrepreneur to the subject of an ongoing investigation, SBF's reckless spending and false promises have landed him in a lot of trouble. Poor management and repeatedly engaging in shady and dishonest business practices is what led to the downfall of FTX. This story isn't quite over yet, as the fraud investigation has not yet concluded. Even recently, in February 2023, his bail conditions have been tightened after he was caught trying to contact current and former FTX employees who may be called as witnesses during the investigation. This is seen as a form of witness tampering, so now the authorities are cracking down on his behavior once again. Things are still not looking good for him, and he is due to appear in court again soon at the time this video was made. It's hard to predict where things will go from here, but many things are clear in hindsight. SBF seemed to have the idea that many young entrepreneurs get, that they can do whatever they want and will never be caught. Unfortunately for SBF, reality did catch up with him, and he has taken the fall. SBF is often referred to as a bad actor, but he is not the only one. Sometimes people who seem innocent commit awful crimes. That's what happened in 2016 with the Bitfinex heist, when hackers stole 120,000 bitcoins worth $4.5 billion at its peak. It wasn't until 5 years later, when the hackers were revealed to be a married couple. They were so close to getting away with it if it wasn't for one very small mistake. This is a story of what seemed to be an ordinary couple on the surface, but somehow managed to pull off the largest crypto heist. That video is now on the screen. Click that and we will share the full story.